Believe it or not, that was the second bell. We have an incredibly full room today, the fullest room we've had since the pandemic. Thank you. I know it's because you're really excited about Dave Neckley introducing our program today. I think that's probably why. So welcome to the Rotary Club of York. We are a people of action, humanitarians committed to service above self and honoring the four-way test. If you haven't already done so, please take a moment to silence your cell phones. President-elect nominee Aaron Jacobs will lead us in the Star-Spangled Banner, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. David Lovelace will offer the invocation, and Jonah Geller will introduce our visitors.
Thank you, President Jackie. Rotarians, please join me. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesty, above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee and crowned thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me as we pray. God of all mercies, our only help in time of need, we humbly beseech you to visit and relieve the suffering of the people of Ukraine, those throughout the world suffering from violence in any form, and those who continue to suffer because of the coronavirus. Give us patience as we strive to defeat the troubles that beset our world, and bless those who are committed to work for peace, health, and prosperity among all people. We ask your blessing upon our speakers this afternoon and their work to promote entrepreneur development here in South Central Pennsylvania, enhancing the lives of all of us who live in this area. Thanksgiving for fellowship, for the food served us today, and for the opportunity to serve through the Rotary. We bless your holy name. Amen.
Good afternoon. I'm fired up to be up here. Are you guys excited? I'm excited. All right, so I am pleased to have the honor of introducing our guests for today's meeting. When I call your name, please stand, and in red, bold with underline, please remain standing. Please remain standing until President Jackie has welcomed you. So here we go. MJ McCluskey, guest of our author. Cedric Adams, guest of Martin Fedorko. David Bodie, or Bode, I'm sorry, guest of Rebecca Shanneman. David Bradley, guest of Martin Fedorko. Tony Campisi, guest of Martin Fedorko. Let's just pause. Am I pronouncing Fedorko correctly? Because if I'm going to say it 400 more times, I want to make sure that I'm doing it right. Where is Martin? Is this correct? Fine. Fine is so meek. All right. Fine. Rebecca Countess, guest of Frank Countess. Krista Dar, guest of John Eister. Eister, see, thank you. Fine was not okay. Roger Fuller, guest of Matt Summer. Carrie Ann Gross, guest of CJ Gross. Sydney Kessler Appel, guest of Frank Countess. Daniel Lorenzo, guest of Ben Ott. There's only 400 more. Sherry McFadden, guest of Martin Fedorko. Seriously, is it Fedorko? Fedorko, okay. Alice Muldrow, guest of Bobby Ann DeLeo. Becky Rice, guest of John Hilliard. Brian Rohrbaugh, guest of the club. Nicole Schaffer or Schaefer. Schaefer? Schaefer, guest of Martin Fedorko. Jen Swanner, guest of Elaine Bono. Cora Taylor, guest of Andy Rawitz. Rawitz? I'm on fire. This is the most fun job ever. Rita Whitney, guest of Kelly Gibson. And last but certainly not least, again, please remain standing. Naomi Morales, guest of Chris Toff. Toff with an F. Jackie, can I keep going? Name everyone in the room. I now give you Jackie.
Whoever knew introducing visitors would be a show unto itself. That's great, Jonah. Thank you. Your debut. We'll call you back again. It is so great to see all your faces here. We're glad you're with us today. We hope that you find this program informative and enjoyable and interesting. I know you will, because most of you are here for Martin's. So, and I hope that you'll consider perhaps joining us again in the future and becoming members of Rotary. We'd love to have you. Please help me welcome our visitors and guests. Martin is so popular that we ran out of chairs and tables. So I want to give a special shout out and thank you to the club staff led by Shannon, who made it possible for everybody to have a seat. So thank you for doing that in the 11th hour, Shannon and your team. We do have some announcements. We learned that Jan Wogemuth is in intensive care at York Hospital with a bacterial infection, and his family is asking for our thoughts and prayers for Jan. The membership committee meets today at 1:30 in the Mixed Grill and also via Zoom. The second courageous conversation on creating a welcoming culture will be held tomorrow at 4 p.m. via Zoom. The Idea Committee will meet on March 7th at 8 a.m. via Zoom. The Preserve Planet Earth Committee will meet March 9th at 8 a.m. via Zoom. And as a reminder, today begins our March to 300 membership campaign. During the month of March, we're asking our members to each bring one. You should have flyers on your tables, by inviting potential members and guests to our club meetings as we get to 300 members by the end of this year. We want to extend a very happy anniversary on behalf of the membership committee to past District Governor Ben Hoover and John Ulrich for 51 years as members of our club. Both joined on March 3rd, 1971. Thank you, Ben and John, for being valued members of the Rotary Club of York. We received a message this week from our former outbound exchange student to Poland in 2012-2013, Candace Campbell Kesey. Candace forwarded an appeal from one of her host mothers, Tatiana Pralipko, a past president of the Rotary E-Club of Ukraine, who served in 2016-2017. Tatiana put out a broad appeal for funding from clubs to save the lives of defenders, civilians, and displaced persons, as well as a request for medical equipment and supplies, which will be organized in Poland and delivered to Kyiv. Rotary International issued this statement on the Ukraine conflict. It is a tragic and sad time for the people of Ukraine and the world. At Rotary, we are deeply concerned by the deteriorating situation in Ukraine and the escalating loss of life and humanitarian hardship there. Continued military action against Ukraine will not only devastate the region, but also risk spreading tragic consequences across Europe and the world. As one of the world's largest humanitarian organizations, we have made peace the cornerstone of our global mission. We join the international community in calling for an immediate ceasefire, withdrawal of Russian forces, and a restoration of diplomatic efforts to resolve this conflict through dialogue. In the past decade, Rotaries in Ukraine, Russia, and nearby countries have transcended national differences and have actively engaged in peace-building projects to promote goodwill and to marshal assistance for the victims of war and violence. Today, our thoughts are with our fellow Rotary members and others in Ukraine coping with these tragic events. Rotary International will do everything in its power to bring aid, support, and peace to the region. Yesterday, our CEF board voted in favor of providing disaster emergency relief for Ukraine and are offering a match for up to $5,000. If you'd like to make a contribution, you can pay online or mail a check to the Rotary office. We're encouraging other clubs in our district as well as the community at large to rally behind the effort in support of Ukraine. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce past President Di Hershey with a special birthday announcement.
Good afternoon. In the spring of 2018, past President Ann Druck and I met with the Sheriff's Department to explore how Rotary could add to the footprint of the K-9 unit. And I mean, actually add paws to the team. We talk about Rotarians being people of action, and this idea became a prime example of what we do. We started with a campaign through Give Local York and called on our members and Rotarians countywide to join us and spring into action. We were successful in raising the funds needed to bring Lieutenant Khan to York. Today, Sergeant Brian Verbaugh is here to give us an update on Khan. And I brought along a special treat for Khan from all of us for his birthday. So there's a lovely little biscuit in there that says happy birthday. So please take that to Khan. Please help me welcome Sergeant Verbaugh to the podium to share details on the great work that Khan is doing for us in York County and beyond.
Right, I just have a few of his big finds, I guess, since the last time that I gave an update. On January 14th of 2021, we had intel that some dealers were coming from Chester County to meet with a user in York. We ended up finding them at the target location out in West Manchester and recovered over a pound of methamphetamine off of the dealers. On August 2nd of 21, Pennsylvania State Police did a traffic stop off of intel that we had of a load coming from Philadelphia. They did the traffic stop. I ran Con around the car and got an alert on the rear passenger's door. We seized the car, took it back to the drug task force, got a search warrant for it. When we searched the car, we couldn't find anything. So since we already had the search warrant, I decided to redeploy Con inside the car this time, and he alerted on a child booster seat that was in the rear passenger side of the vehicle. Couldn't figure out why until we started thinking about it and doing some Google searching. There was random magnets in the center console of this car. We grabbed one of the magnets, waved it in front of the booster seat, and the thing popped open and had 1.2 kilos of cocaine in the base of the child booster seat. September 14th of 21 at the Rudders in Hellam Township. Again, intel coming from Chester County. We stopped the car, deployed Con around the car, and gave an alert on the trunk of the car where we recovered another pound of methamphetamine inside of an AT&T bag. The very next day, I know this was put out there, or it was pretty published, but there was a missing autistic 15-year-old, I believe, that went missing in Heidelberg Township. We were deployed between all 5 of our dogs for a 19-hour search trying to locate this missing juvenile. The dogs didn't locate her, but she was found safe and was returned back to her family. On November 16th of 21, Con was involved in the search for the subject that kidnapped his 2 kids and was going out. So I had Con deployed trying to track down that subject. And then finally, January of this year, the Attorney General's office requested Con for a search of a storage unit here in York. When I showed up, they asked me what kind of information I wanted. I said, just point me to a door I need to go to. I don't want to know anything else. Inside, it was a U-shaped hallway. I sent Con inside the hallway. He ran in through. Those of you that know Con, he's very hyper. So he tries to cheat and he's just full bore trying to find the odor as quick as he possibly can. So he ran, gave me a little bit of a head snap on one of the lockers, ignored it and kept walking. So I started detailing him along the lockers. On the seam of the locker that he gave me a head snap, he gave me a positive alert. When I turned around and looked at the agents, they had a big smile on their face. They knew which locker it was. I did not. Following day, they did a search warrant on that locker and recovered over a pound of marijuana, a half pound of fentanyl, a pound of methamphetamine, and 9 pounds of cocaine, which equaled over 4 kilos worth of cocaine. That's kind of a big deal here in New York. We don't usually get that big a bust. So Khan has made quite a name for himself within the departments here in York County. As I was telling Di, I get direct calls to my cell phone now requesting Khan. They don't even waste time trying to go through county to get me. They just call my cell phone. To date, this number still shocks me. Khan's been in service since September 2018. And as of today, he has over 329 calls for service. That is more than the majority of dogs get their entire career. And he's did it in a little over 3.5 years. And he's still going strong to this date. So I know I say this every time that I give updates to you, but thank you so much for everything you did to give Khan to us and to give me the opportunity to handle him.
Thank you, Sergeant Rohrbaugh, for your great work on behalf of the county and for keeping us safe. And we love to see Khan whenever we can. Maybe we can go outside and see him later, since he's a little timid these days coming in front of large crowds. And now for the vote on our nominations, which we began last week, I'd like to invite past President Josh George, who's the chair of the Past Presidents Committee, to restate the nominations that were placed on the ballot on February 23rd and were duly seconded. Further, you may recall that nominations were closed at that meeting.
Thank you, Jackie. Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians and guests. It's my pleasure to formalize what we started last week, which is the nomination of our new board members and officers for the coming years. You might remember that Glenn Miller was elected as president of the club for the coming 22-23 Rotary year and will succeed President Jackie this coming July. And further, the following board members will serve their second year on the board of directors: JT Hand, Bill Hartman, Alan Roth, and Cal Weary. On behalf of the Past Presidents Nominating Committee, we have placed the following individuals in nomination for officers to serve for the club for the 22-23 Rotary year: Aaron Jacobs as president-elect, Courtney Bailey Piccolo as president-elect nominee, and Doug Berman as financial vice president. And I move that President Jackie cast a unanimous ballot electing our slate.
So cast.
Thank you, Jackie. And further, the Past Presidents Nominating Committee has placed the following individuals in nomination for a 2-year term starting on the board of directors in July of this year. Those individuals are Dee Baker, Jen May, Joan Mummert, and Jules Tolbert. And again, I move that President Jackie cast a unanimous ballot electing our slate.
So cast. Thank you, Past President Josh, and congratulations to our new directors and to our leadership. Thank you so much. And now Past President Josh will introduce some new members.
Members, come on up. That's my thing. Yeah. I don't want to get that mixed up in your stand. So today it's my pleasure to induct some new members to our club. You can, if you've been here recently, you know that this has been an ongoing, very positive part of our meetings for the last few months as we get back to a point where we were prior to the COVID pandemic starting. We had about 323 members prior to COVID. We lost more than 50 during the COVID pandemic, but we are about halfway back to where we were. And our campaign goal of 300 is fully underway. So it's great to have 3 additional new members joining the club today. So first, I would like to introduce you to John Eister. John has been a guest at our club about 350 times over the last decade. I don't know what it took to finally get him to join, but thank goodness he's finally joining. John, welcome aboard. If you don't know John, he is a graduate of West York High School. He graduated also from York College with a Bachelor of Science degree, and he is currently employed at Fulton Bank, where he is a commercial market executive. His community service includes as a board member of the United Way, a board member at Crispus Attucks. He's also a member of the NAACP and the Confronting Racism Coalition. And you may know, if you ever had any of your kids play basketball as they were growing up, that he's been a basketball official for about 37 years in the local area. So you may, if you don't know him from Rotary after 350 visits, maybe a couple of those basketball games over the years. One of John's favorite hobbies is marathon running. He's run between 50 and 60 marathons. Now, I've happened to know John for a long time, and I will say that not all of those marathons have been very fast. But he's out there slugging it out. So not too many people in this room have probably run 50 to 60 marathons. So that's a pretty good thing, John. Keep at it. John is married to Melody, and they have two kids, Zach, who is 36, and Rachel, who is 33. And they are the grandparents to 4 grandchildren. And his proposer is Jules Tolbert. Ladies and gentlemen, John Eister. Next up, we have Tiffany Gladfelder. Tiffany went to Dover Area High School, and she graduated from Consolidated School of Business with an associate's degree in specialized business. She is employed at Spirit Trust Lutheran, where she is the director of donor engagement. Her community and service includes a membership and participating in the membership and mentoring committees of the Association of Fundraising Professionals, and she is a board member at the York Hospital Auxiliary. Her hobbies include gardening, reading, and spending time with family. She's married to Jason, and they have 2 kids, Evelina, who is 15, and Ethan, who is 9, and she is proposed by Rob Bowen. Now, more importantly, today is her birthday. So she begged me not to have us sing happy birthday to her. So out of respect, we will not do that. But if you want to sing to her after the meeting, grab her. I'm sure she'd love to be serenaded by 200 different people. Welcome aboard, Tiffany. Tiffany Gladfelder, everybody. And last but certainly not least, Matthew Hoffman. Matthew is a graduate of Spring Grove High School, and he earned his Bachelor of Science in Architectural Engineering from Penn State. He is employed at Providence Engineering, where he serves as a design engineer. And I've gotten to know and work with Matthew over the last couple of years on a couple of different projects, and can tell you that he's a great engineer. I've really enjoyed working with him. If you haven't had a chance to meet him, please do so. Hopefully you can cross paths professionally. His community service includes service as the Assistant Scoutmaster for Boy Scouts Troop 97. He plays the trumpet. Where's Chuck Long? He plays the trumpet for Hanover Area Symphony Orchestra, and he is part of the prayer team at Providence Community Church. His hobbies include camping, backpacking, cooking, and woodworking. He is not yet married, but may be open to potential introductions. I didn't actually ask him that, so hopefully that's not too much on the spot for him. And he is proposed by none other than Josh George. Ladies and gentlemen, Matthew Hoffman.
Yeah, past President Josh is also a show, you know. Thank you so much. Great job. Welcome to our new members. As you know, your experience in Rotary is really directly related to how involved you become. So I encourage you to look at our committees, sit in on some of those committees, get to know our members that way, and pick some committees you think that you really want to be a part of. And I think that will really enhance your experience and have you be here for 51 years, just like some of our other guys. So welcome. And now I would like to introduce Deb Harrison and Tina Rohrbaugh, who will have a literacy lend a hand campaign announcement.
Okay, go for it. I am really excited this year as chair of the Literacy Committee. This is the time of year where we always challenge you to raise funds to help us put books into the hands of children and their families and help enhance literacy. across York City and with our recipients of our book challenge. This year, we're really happy to introduce the B3 challenge. So this is books, blankets, and bucks. And Lynn actually was a wonderful matchmaker and had the great idea of bringing our two committees together, because Lend a Hand has not been able to do some of the things they've done in the past because of the pandemic related to holiday gifts and that sort of thing. And so they have in the past done some amazing work putting little blanket and book kits bundles into the hands of children and families. And so we thought it would be a partnership made in heaven for the two committees to work together and find some ways to do this. So books, obviously, we have selected some recipients. Each year we choose recipients for our funds. And generally, our committee is really interested in early education and getting books into the hands of children as early as possible. So we had many applicants this year and actually selected 4 different recipients. So we're really asking you to give generously because we want to respond to all 4 of those recipients. So the blankets will be in the past, Lend a Hand committee has made blankets and put together kits, bundling a book and a blanket together, which is a lovely idea to think of families sitting down and having reading time. And the Lend a Hand committee will be asking for help in several ways. That the bucks have to do with raising money, not only for books, but also for the materials to make the blankets. But they'll be asking you to help. Some of you have been involved in this in the past and you've reached out and gotten together and made blankets. There'll be a lot more information about that coming, your opportunity to come help with that. It's not hard. Anybody can do it. You don't need to be a crafter. You don't need to be a sewer. It's quite easy. So we'll be asking you to step forward and help make those blankets and get those kits ready. And then we'll be asking you for funds to not only purchase blankets and the book to go along with it, but we would really like some additional funds to be able to give actual dollars to our recipients. They've all sent proposals into us telling us how they would use books in their classrooms or books to distribute to their families. So we chose 4 recipients this year: Little Bulldogs Academy, York Day Nursery, their new site. You may recall they were a recipient several years ago for a book drive, but they have a new site and 40 students there. And Christchurch Child Care Center, 40 students there. So that 39, 40, and 40 are our goal to get the book and blanket bundle to each of those children, those students, and then also raise some funds for them in addition to purchase the books that they may need for classrooms or reading. And then United Way Reach Out and Read, we will not be distributing blankets for them, but we will be assisting them. This program has been up and running for a while and is an exciting program where pediatricians or doctors can prescribe reading and books and distribute books to families. And so they are in need of additional books to supplement and have available to distribute. So we're going to respond to them with some funds. So you do have a flyer on your table today. If you're ready to give today, that's fantastic. Take that flyer and you'll find a table for the upcoming weeks of the month of March, where you can stop and make your pledge or your gift at that time. And we will be asking you to help make blankets and put those kits together as well. So keep an eye out for all of that. And thank you so much for your generosity.
Thank you, Deb, for this important initiative. We look forward to supporting it and seeing it into fruition. And at this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce past President Dave Meckley to introduce our program.
Good afternoon. It is absolutely my pleasure to introduce our speakers today. Martin Fedorko is the founder and managing partner of White Rose Ventures, an innovation catalyst working with entrepreneurs, foundations, private investors, corporate partners to deliver solutions that enhance and promote entrepreneurial-led economic development in South Central Pennsylvania. Martin has spent much of his life in Pittsburgh, where he graduated from the University of Pittsburgh and had a career in investment management, most recently as a government bond trader for Federated Hermes. He came to York 6 years ago to be part of a founding team of a local startup, Benjamin Bond, which was acquired by WellSpan in August 2020. And through that acquisition period, he developed a vision for White Rose Ventures. Martin is married to Lacey, and they have 3 children. Alexa Bourne is the managing director of White Rose Ventures and the executive director of Braided River Collective, the nonprofit support arm of White Rose Ventures. Alexa was born and raised in York, graduating from York Suburban High School. She attended college in Pittsburgh, where she got a BA in urban studies from the University of Pittsburgh and her master's in public policy and management for Carnegie Mellon University. Alexa and Martin both worked together at Benjamin and Bond before deciding to pursue White Rose Ventures together, and she has 3 children. Martin and Alexa bring an energy and a passion to these ventures that not only reflects their strong commitment to our community, but will specifically provide capital and support to a diverse group of entrepreneurs. Today, they will discuss the origin stories of both White Rose Ventures and Braided River Collective. And they will also discuss the venture capital industry at large, why York and why now. Included in their presentation will be an overview of their first few investments made throughout the region and what's next for the organization. Please help me welcome Martin and Alexa.
Jeez Louise. Thank you, Dave, for the introduction. Thank you, Rotarians, for having us. I don't know if it's the weather today, COVID just kind of feels like it's lifting a little bit. It just feels good today, especially to be in front of a group like this. Thank you so much for being here. I want to start off our presentation with a quote. I love this quote, and I hope you understand reading this and throughout the presentation just why we think venture capital can be one of the pieces to the puzzle of bringing access to a lot of talent that we have here in South Central Pennsylvania. The quote is from a book called Down with the Gatekeepers by Rex Woodbury. The quote is actually by a man named Barry Diller. Some of you folks may know who Barry Diller is. He was a movie executive in the 70s and 80s. Later became a pretty prominent investor and had a holding company with all sorts of entertainment businesses. But this is a book or a quote from him in the book Down with the Gatekeepers. Quote, "There's not that much talent in the world. There are very few people in very few closets in very few rooms that are really talented and can't get out. People with talent and expertise at making entertainment products are not going to be displaced by 1,800 people coming up with their videos that they think are going to have an appeal." The year Barry Diller said this was the year that YouTube was created. And proved to us all that there's a lot more talented people in this world than anyone realized. What YouTube did was bring access to a lot of folks, just like a lot of other innovations that have come since then. And I hope that theme of access resonates through the presentation. So venture capital in Central Pennsylvania, it might seem like an odd place. Again, by the end of this presentation, I hope you begin to understand that it's actually quite the opposite. This is actually quite a great area to start something like this. But I think a good place to start would be an origin story for White Rose Ventures as a whole. As Dave was saying before, Alexa and I both worked at a healthcare innovation company called Benjamin and Bond. And one of the things that we were doing there at the time was starting to raise a venture fund. It was a little more focused. We were focused on pre-revenue health IT intellectual property out of universities. I know it's a mouthful, but it was something that actually, even taking a step back, I moved here 6 years ago, actually. And I've just been so fortunate to have met so many of you here through the years, and we've had coffee and we've talked about all the priorities we have here in the community, not just on an individual level, but as organizations. And one of the things that always stuck out was everyone supported entrepreneurialism. Everyone in some facet supported entrepreneurialism, whether it's organizations or just, again, it just feels good to promote entrepreneurs. But once we started raising that venture fund, it got me to understand too, what are investors' appetite for something like this? And what are they looking for when they want to make investments in the community with meaningful dollars? And I don't mean philanthropic dollars. If you take a look at the chart over here, maybe I'll play with this a little bit, whatever. On the left side, you'll find philanthropic dollars. Again, we are such a proud philanthropic community here, and we should all feel so fortunate. Like Dave said too, I spent most of my life in Pittsburgh and York, both just happen to have very rich philanthropic communities. I just thought everywhere had that. That is not the case at all. And we are so fortunate here to have what we have here. But usually when we wanted to impact entrepreneurship, it was more on the front end of this capital allocation. So there would be philanthropic donations or maybe small, low interest rate type loans to businesses. But really, it wasn't quite, it was only addressing the front half of what entrepreneurs need. So we were doing a good job of promoting some entrepreneurs that really want to get to it. But what would happen is, as you move down this scale a little bit, you're going to start identifying companies and entrepreneurs that really have promise here and really have promise for job growth and job creation. But that, where the middle of that is kind of where our funding stops. Now, there's not to say that there aren't private investors here or angel networks and things like that, but not in a very coordinated fashion here. So one of two things will happen. We're promoting these entrepreneurs, but if we start identifying them as being promising and having very, creating jobs, one of two things is going to happen. Either they're going to fold because they can't find the funding they need to grow and scale, or they're going to go to a different region, one that's more supportive and accommodating for entrepreneurs, one where it's easier access to private capital. I mentioned that all these organizations support entrepreneurialism. Even taking a step back from that, why do we support entrepreneurialism? Why is that so attractive to, as an organization or as a priority? I think one of the reasons is for job creation. Like I said, I've only been here 6 years, but I've heard about all the companies here in the past and folks saying, why can't we get back to that where, we were the center of industry and there were industries here that were creating jobs. And I hear that a lot. We need to look at, how our philanthropic dollars and our more, say concessionary investment dollars are working together with our investment dollars to really promote what, the kinds of companies and jobs that we want to create here. So why hasn't venture capital happened in Central Pennsylvania? One, I assume a lot of you folks did not go to school for venture capital, me included. I went to business school, I went to finance, and oddly enough, I still have my notebooks from college for whatever reason. And I was actually flipping through one, and there was like a segment for venture capital, but it was a very small dictionary-like definition of venture capital. And that was it. We didn't learn about that. I mean, we didn't even learn how to, to strive to be entrepreneurs in college, really. It was more, for me anyway, it's more just, you want to work for Goldman and either back then Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers and things like that. It was never talked about, being an entrepreneur and actually starting to do that. So it's just a misunderstood way to promote entrepreneurs in a place like this. And also too, a lot of us understand investment in some way, shape or form. We understand what it means to invest in a stock or an index fund or things like that. But the journey of a dollar through a venture fund is inherently different. And, again, we don't invest in things that we don't understand typically. And it just takes a sort of understanding of it to make it more prevalent around here. Next, there haven't been any huge exits. And when I say exit, a company that's either acquired or, goes to IPO. There's a ton of M&A activity around here without a doubt. But, you hear some of those bigger names, bigger M&A activity in places like San Francisco and Boston. And that makes sense. That's what grabs headlines. M&A activity in central Pennsylvania, it just isn't going to grab headlines. So if you're an investor thinking about something like this, you might think, okay, well, I'd like to do that, sure. But what companies? Like, I don't even know what exists here. Next is risk. And if you take a look at the chart here, this was a chart, it's a pretty simple chart, but it was put together by an investor, a prominent investor named Howard Marks. And if you get a chance, like he talks, he has YouTube videos and stuff that just talks about risk. And it's very simple, but it's very compelling as well. Over on the one axis, you have favorable outcomes and unfavorable outcomes, and then conventional and unconventional behavior. And if you look at the column with conventional behavior, I'm going to use the analogy that a lot of you folks have heard before especially in the finance world, is you can never be fired for investing in IBM. Right? But why is that exactly? Like, it's just like a common whatever, but why is that? Why can you not get fired for investing in IBM? Well, IBM is a solid blue chip stock, right? It's a safe stock. So a lot of folks are going to invest in it. But if it goes up, that's great, but it goes up for everybody. And if it goes down, it goes down for everybody too. And guess what? It probably went down for your boss as well. So you're not going to get fired for doing something like that. It's a safe bet. It's a safe investment to make. But I'll argue that conventional behavior only ever gives you average results. You can do those types of things, but you're never going to distinguish yourself necessarily from other folks possibly doing different things. Where I would put venture capital is more in the unconventional behavior. Now, unconventional does not mean stupid or ill-prepared or anything like that. Unconventional just means using the unique assets you have as a region and tailoring that to your investment process and strategy moving forward for the common priorities that you have as a region. I'll talk about a few venture stats here. So first around job creation, 100% of the net new jobs in this country are created by firms less than 5 years old. That's a pretty compelling stat, less than 5 years old. And a lot of those companies are backed by venture capital. Job growth, employment at VC-backed companies grew at roughly 8 times the pace of non-VC-backed companies. Pretty compelling as well. The next one, 75% of venture capital still goes to California, Massachusetts, or New York. Now, you guys all know where that is. I didn't need to put this map up there. But what you'll notice is, just how much is in between California, New York, and Massachusetts. And you can't tell me that there aren't great entrepreneurs and great founders making novel solutions to everyday problems in the center of America. We just happen to sit there as well. And lastly, with the stats, 97% of venture capital still goes to white founders. 97%. I'm going to share a quote. The venture capital industry plays an important role in empowering small businesses, the backbone of America's economy. The industry makes up a mere 0.2% of GDP, but delivers a stunning 21% of US GDP in the form of revenue backed by venture capital. That said, the practice of leaving founders of color out of the VC equation is being exacerbated in real time, as Black startup entrepreneurs only receive 1.2% of the $147 billion invested in American startups during the first half of 2021. There's a lot of things you can read from that, but access to capital is a huge reason why that number persists. People talk about, people talk about the impact we want to make with this. It's a pretty simple chart that I put together too, but it's around equitable opportunity. And what you'll see is success on the one end, on the one axis, and effort on the other. What we're finding is traditional founders and non-traditional founders are represented in those two lines. Depending on where you grew up, who your mom and dad were, things like that can give you vastly different chances of success. You can give the same amount of effort, two groups give the same amount of effort, but inherently have different chances of success because of the people they knew and where they grew up. And that is an access to capital problem. Our goal and our mission there is to shrink that gap and making sure that everybody in this region knows that if you have a great idea and you want to grow a great company here, you have just as much chance for capital as anybody else does. So why are we doing this exactly? What is our hopeful outcome for all this? Like I said, if entrepreneurs don't have capital, they're either going to leave or they're going to fold. And it's all going to be for nothing, all the effort and support that we put up front for entrepreneurs. We're not going to be able to attract entrepreneurs here. That's a huge thing that we've been talking about for years, is how can we attract business and entrepreneurs here? If we want others to believe in York, they need to see that we believe in York as well. And this would be a huge stepping stone into allowing them to know that this is a supportive and accommodative region for all entrepreneurs that want to start and grow businesses here. We just want everybody to see what we see here in the entrepreneurial ecosystem. And we need an access point for foundations, corporate partners, and individuals, people with the ability to invest, to participate in the growth of businesses across the region. That's why we started White Rose Ventures. White Rose Ventures is an innovation catalyst working with entrepreneurs, foundations, private investors, and corporate partners to deliver solutions that enhance and promote entrepreneurial-led economic development in South Central Pennsylvania. So what does all that mean? We are working with our region's brightest and most ambitious entrepreneurs, and we're doing that through capital and support. On the capital side of things, we have a $20 million venture fund. It's a return-first Central PA investment fund investing in our region's most ambitious entrepreneurs, led by our community's most forward-thinking institutions and investors. Typically, our investments are going to be equity investments into smaller, minority equity stakes into businesses, but we also are able to use a revenue-based financing model, and I'll tell you why. When you invest in smaller businesses, you're looking for a liquidity moment for that, so you can bring money back to the fund, and that liquidity moment can be either being acquired by a bigger business or going public. But there's a lot of people, there's a lot of founders growing great businesses in this region, and seriously, there's a lot that don't necessarily have an exit in mind. They're growing their business because they enjoy the business that they have, and they might have needs for growth capital moving forward. But if an exit isn't part of the equation, then it's a kind of a fuzzy investment area for a lot of folks. But if you can use more of a revenue-based financing model that allows you to inject capital and help them grow and scale, and by the way, bring a return that is commensurate with what our investors are expecting, it's another subset of founders here that we can really help influence and grow. Like I said, we also recognize that we need more than just capital to help grow these businesses. Entrepreneurs, especially for growing and scaling companies, need a different level of support. And to that point, I'll bring Alexa up to talk about Braided River.
Thanks so much, Martin. I really appreciate it. So I tried to echo the pattern of Martin's presentation, and I chose to start with a quote here. I love this quote because this is actually an entrepreneur speaking for himself. So he is talking about the fact that he knows he can go further with a team than he can go alone. And I've realized, and pretty much realized the first day I started with Martin, that that was also going to be true of us as an organization, that if we went at this alone, we weren't going to get as far as if we went together. And so I like to think of this as, I know I've said it to our board, our amazing board that's here with us. If you want to go fast, you go alone. You want to go far, you go together. And that's really a thing that we start with every day as we do our work together. So, when I first started, you can't even see the counties. Okay, there are counties back there, I swear. That's great. York, Lancaster, and Dauphin County. So when I first started with Martin, one of the first questions I always ask, and I always joke, Martin doesn't quite know why he hired me, but one of the reasons he hired me is because I think in systems. So one of the first questions I had when I started was, how do we fit into all of this? Because if I want to know who I'm going to go far with together. And so I did a quick scan. This is by no means a comprehensive list of all the people that care about entrepreneurs and they're doing work to help entrepreneurs here in our region, but there's some of the heavy hitters here. And what I realized was in my beginning time at White Rose Ventures is that there's no one really waking up Monday morning worried about people who are starting new things in our region and thinking about that as a region altogether. White Rose Ventures has the purview of this entire region together. And we realized quickly access to capital wasn't going to be enough to help entrepreneurs. We understand that the ecosystem will require more than just money for entrepreneurs to get ahead. So that's a big reason why we started Braided River Collective. Our hypothesis of how to get this whole thing started, right? So I started as managing director of White Rose Ventures. And then I was like, maybe we need to do a whole additional thing along with just providing access to capital. My hypothesis of how to make that happen was kind of like, I know enough. Any good designer who's worth their salt knows that there's a lot they don't know. So I need people walking alongside me who have their own perspectives, their own experience, and their own beliefs and knowledge that they can bring to the table and help me. So what we did was we were really careful and took our time identifying unbelievable human beings who could become a part of our board. And many of them are here. If you're a board member of Braided River Collective, can you just wave to everybody real quick? Yeah. And Cedric, soon when he's going to join up with us, just so you know. So these folks are here because they are people of heart. They are people who are committed to entrepreneurs and who are already making connections in the ecosystem every day. And we started with people who are mostly York-based. There are 2 representatives from the Harrisburg area and the Lancaster area, but that's because Martin and I believe in York first. So starting here, and then we'll pan out and grow Braided River Collective as much as we can alongside our partners. So as a team, we've decided that Braided River Collective's purpose here is to empower the economic ecosystem here in the Susquehanna Valley, and we're going to do that through a culture of entrepreneurship and innovation. New ideas can just be amazing new ideas that come from one person who's just really committed, but you can also have a culture of looking at problems in a new way and developing solutions that are unique. And that is something that we believe is necessary here in this region for us to be successful. We got a few goals for 2022 that we're working on, and we were very careful in how we crafted this because remember I said there's lots of things we don't know. We're focused on 3 things that we want to get done, and I have progress to report on all 3 of them, although when I made this presentation like a week ago now, the 3rd one, I didn't have any progress. So just goes to show you put the right people in the right seats, things just get going, things start happening. So our goals for 2022, first off, is to connect the actual ecosystem. If you know anything about startups and startup communities, the ecosystem is a huge part of whether entrepreneurs can be successful. People need to be able to get to the resources they need to make things happen. Starting something that your livelihood is based on is hard. It is really, really difficult work. So you need people to come alongside you and give you the resources you need in quick time. So we want to connect and bring the ecosystem together. We want to understand the ecosystem better. I showed you that slide that you couldn't see the counties on, that there's only so much we know about the ecosystem right now, and we need to learn more about it. And we need to hear how entrepreneurs themselves are experiencing that ecosystem. Is it actually working for them? And then lastly, we want to educate. We want to connect people who are interested in entrepreneurialism to the skills and resources they need to be successful as an entrepreneur. So first off, our first goal is connect. This is one of these great stories of partnership. Basically, all of my stories are great stories of partnership. But Keystone Merge was an event that used to happen in 2019. It's a regional event. Entrepreneurs present their idea or their business and talk about a problem they need help with, and the group that is in attendance helps them in real time to solve that problem. It moves throughout the region. So first event was in York in February. This month's event is tomorrow in Harrisburg at the old Waterworks if you want to join up. And then it'll be in Lancaster, and it'll just keep rotating. So that's very purposeful. We want everyone to be traveling to each other's communities and getting to know one another. So if you're interested to learn more about that, please go to keystonemerge.com. It's an awesome site created by Kate Ferreira out of Catamaran. She's one of our partners making this whole thing happen. Sign up for our newsletter. You can hear when the next events are, and you can also follow us at Keystone Merge on Facebook and Instagram. Next goal for us is research. So this is one of the things I'm most excited about. I love working with students. We're working with Dr. Jay Azrael's spring entrepreneurship class at York College, and we are doing empathetic interviewing of entrepreneurs themselves. Anthony's nodding because he's one of my entrepreneurs up there. Thank you for doing that. So what we're doing is we're taking the time to listen to entrepreneurs themselves and hear what is and is not working for them. I think it's really easy to start solving problems that you just perceive instead of taking the time to understand the people that you're helping to serve. So this is a very highly scoped study. We're only going to get to 30 entrepreneurs, but that's a lot of work for these students. And it's very purposeful that we're trying to take our time, do one study well, take each step as it comes. And we'll have bigger and better studies as time goes on, but this is our first one out of the gate. I'm really excited to be working with the students. They send me these emails like, to put it bluntly, I never wanted to stop talking to them. And it's like, oh, it's really sweet. So it's wonderful. It's like, it's a good experience for them too. So we're all learning a lot together. There will be a presentation of results to the community, so I'll be sure to send that along. And then the second big research goal is actually mapping the whole ecosystem. Lancaster's done a great job mapping their entrepreneurial ecosystem. We need to build on the momentum that they have and understand it for the entire region. The key partner on that is actually the Next Gen IT partnership out of Harrisburg, of which I am the co-chair of the Innovation Committee. They're a team that really gets things done, and we've decided our next goal is to get a map of the entire ecosystem done so that, again, we understand what the real gaps are. So as we're creating programs, we're solving the problems that actually exist. And then, as I said, I don't have a slide for my last one because I didn't have progress until a couple of days ago, but We are working with the Lincoln Intermediate Unit to work alongside students to teach them entrepreneurial skills. So they're an amazing team. I had one phone call with them and they like swooped right back around. We're like, we have some grant opportunities. Could you help us? So I'm here, let's do it. So they are developing a pre-apprenticeship program in IT, and there will be layered in skill sets around entrepreneurialism. So human design thinking, which I think is absolutely key to that culture of innovation and entrepreneurship. We need to begin to remember that everything that we experience, all of this stuff that's around us is designed by us. And we can design it differently if we'd like it to look different. That's what being an entrepreneur is all about. So really excited to announce all those goals and to share progress on all of them, which is awesome. I want to take a moment to note, though, none of that progress would be possible without partnership. I know I took a moment to shout out my board, but the truth is we have partnerships all across the region, and these people are just such heavy hitters. They're like world breakers. They help us just jump in and get these things done, and we wouldn't be where we are right now, not just Braided River Collective, Right Rose Ventures, without all of the support of the community organizations that show up for us and believe in what we're up to. So Braided River Collective, we're a regional catalyst for entrepreneurs, creatives, and innovators. And we're going to empower the economic ecosystem here in the Susquehanna Valley. And with that, I'll pass it back to Martin to talk to you a little bit about some of the organizations that we're going to fund through the Impact Fund.
Thank you, Alexa. Of course, I must have rambled too much. So I'm going to fly through some of our companies that we invested in quick. So like I was saying, I've just been so pleased to hear, a lot of folks in this room to say, like, of course, like what entrepreneurs are you investing in, what companies? Deal flow around here, believe it or not, is just incredible. And we are just so thrilled to be participating in some of these companies. Like I said, I'll fly through these real quick. Nakilogics is a platform company that develops technologies to enable users to actively control and navigate their connected world in a completely invisible manner. Sounds kind of futuristic. It kind of is. It's an incredible company started by a local entrepreneur here from York. Next is Reflection. Reflection is a cognitive sports training company focused on improving athletic performance while keeping athletes healthy and safe. CyberCon IQ, some of you folks might know, I believe James Norrie presented last year, but CyberCon IQ is an integrated risk management platform that enables companies to reduce the risk of cyber attacks by focusing on the human elements of cyber risk. Next is Pledgeit. Pledgeit's an online fundraising platform used by thousands of individuals and charities to raise more money with less effort by leveraging the power of performance. Lastly, Evermind. Evermind's a product under the company Therapeutics. Evermind is a natural plant-based beverage that unlocks the power of real food to nourish your brain. It combines both a near-term cognitive boost and a long-term brain health benefits in one convenient, easy to access product. What we're trying to do, we need to accelerate the rate at which capital, ideas, and talents find each other here in the region. We can do that by providing entrepreneurs of all kinds access to private capital. Like I started with this presentation ending, when you give everyone access to private capital, I think you'll find that there's a lot of talent out there, including in South Central Pennsylvania. Thank you so much. Take one question. Kelly. Great question, thank you. And the question is, what other forms of access to capital do we have for entrepreneurs here locally? I was just talking to Jeff about this earlier too. This is becoming quite a good time to be a business owner and entrepreneur here in York. We just have so many different ways of funding different types of businesses. What I like to say is that, what is often misunderstood, even for the vast majority of us, is what's the right type of capital for the right type of business and their business model. Venture capital is not right for everybody. We could love a company, but the return projections don't make sense for venture fund, but it makes sense for a bank to look at some of the things they're looking at, or it makes sense for the Economic Alliance and the Bloom program to look at something like that, some of the work at York College. We have a lot of different ways to support entrepreneurs here. What I think will be great coming up here is just, as we're doing our work too, is just helping folks who are starting a business understand what the right capital is for them and triaging them to where we think it makes sense for them to spend their time growing and scaling their business, whatever their business model might be. That's it. Thank you again so much.
Thank you, Martin and Alexa. That was a fabulous program, very informative and interesting. And wow, you're doing such great things with entrepreneurialism and keeping it alive and keeping us growing. I love the concrete examples of your successes. Thank you. Martin and Alexa signed the book plate for the book Pete the Cat's Groovy Guide to Kindness by Kimberly and James Dean, which will be donated to Alexander D. Good Elementary School in the city of York. Next week, we'll hear from Rotarian Bobby Andaleo, Executive Director of the York Literacy Council. In its 46th year of service, the York County Literacy Council continues the vision of eliminating illiteracy in York County by providing educational programs for adult learners. Bobby Ann will share the agency's mission, growth, and impact on the York community, highlighting a number of student successes. She also promises a peek at York Literacy's new facility. And in closing today, our quote is by Ernest Hemingway. I kind of envisioned him hanging around his haunt, Captain Tony's at the time, throwing back some jacks, because this quote is so Ernest Hemingway in Captain Tony's. Today is only one day in all the days that will ever be, but what will happen in all the other days that ever come can depend on what you do today. I hope you have a great rest of your week. This meeting is adjourned.